evening, folks, and welcome to another edition of the Pilot Review Show. I am Captain Blade J52, and I am joined this week by my merry band of cohorts. We have with us everyone's favorite teacher of the Kirby variety.
Howdy-ho! How's it going, folks?
And we also have everyone's favorite RP hologram, Artie.
Hello.
And Neela is having some technical difficulties, but should be able to get it sorted out and everything, and join us pretty quickly, we're hoping. But anyways, we've got a little bit of stuff to get through this week, so let's go ahead and dive right into it. We have, for the console players, a pretty healthy list of stuff going on. A Duty Officer Sale, Junior Officer Week, and Upgrade Week. So from Thursday, October the 12th until Thursday, October the 19th, they are running a special weekend event where you can earn bonus Commendation XP by completing any DOF assignment. Then, on top of that, receive a free special purple quality duty officer with a unique active roster power by speaking with your DOF contact. And then it tells exactly where to get them. It says this is an engineering, this is for Starfleet and Romulans, it's an engineering exo-comp duty officer. And for KDF and Romulan aligned KDFs, it is a Reman.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
And I was going to say it is important to note these are free duty officers, and they actually are pretty good. Their active ability, if you put them on space ability, or on your active space roster, they add a secondary effect to the batteries that you use, and it's actually a pretty good effect, especially if you use something like weapons batteries or red matter capacitor, or the special batteries that come out now, like the oh goodness me, the ones that enhance your energy weapons and things like that. They treat it like a red matter capacitor. But yeah, so they're actually pretty good duty officers for that. So, worth getting.
Indeed. But, yeah, quite a bit of stuff going for you guys. And then, on top of that, you have the upgrade weekend. This is just like we have here on PC. Every tech upgrade used will apply twice as much technology points towards the next upgrade. This in turn reduces the amount of dilithium that must be spent to reach each upgrade threshold, allowing captains additional chances to attain both mark and rarity increases on their favored loadouts. So, quite a bit of stuff going on for you guys. You get an entire upgrade week, whereas we typically only get weekends here on PC, at least usually that's what happens. But this does apply to pretty much every single tech upgrade out there. Say for the ultimate tech upgrades, since they take things straight to Epic. This means your Omega techs, your Phoenix techs, any of those type of tech upgrades that you have are going to get an increased effect while this is going on. So now with everything going on is a great time to get your duty officers, get that dilithium, or not dilithium, but get those tech upgrades going, and see if you can't finally get some gear to where you want it. Speaking of dilithium, from October the 12th until the 16th, we have a dilithium weekend on the PC.
Yes, we do. So the dilithium weekend on the PC means a couple things. First of all, as Blade said, it is from Thursday, October 12th until Monday, October 16th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So during the event, any dilithium mining that's in the Vugta asteroid field and in the Fleet dilithium mine is doubled. So especially if you have your now's the time to turn them in. Now's the time to go and check out your fleet dilithium mine and get double ore there. Everywhere else in the game, you get what we call time and a half. Think of it like overtime for your job. So if you would normally get 1,000 dilithium for something, you now get 1,500, 1,500. And dilithium rewards, it's important to note that dilithium rewards for completing event reputation projects do not receive a bonus. Okay? So, there you go. Double deal in the mines and time and a half everywhere else.
Yep.
Always love good extra deal.
Especially after a Phoenix weekend to build that stuff back up.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I know.
Or technically Phoenix week, wasn't it? Wasn't that how long we had
Something
that?
like that, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it was a whole week.
Let's get out there and recoup that dilithium, folks. Now is definitely the time to burn those, dilithium claims, which I actually need to do that. Anyway. But, anyways, definitely go out there, check out the weekends for PC and for console both. Quite a good bit of stuff going on. But, coming up now, we have our PC patch notes for the 12th.
Ah, yes, the PC patch notes for the 12th. There's a little bit of stuff here, so I'll just go ahead and just start reading them off. Catch me if I skip something. Alright, in the general section, for Draenor Beach Assault, resolved an issue where one Tenketi power would fire through walls. This queue now has a lever penalty. Ooh. You leave, you get in trouble. Nice. Draenor Colony Fleet Holding. Resolved an issue where the surfing water effect played above the board. Ooh, game breaking. And added the water weighting audio. Nice. The little details. Resolved an issue where the players could not load newly saved costumes created after launch of Season 14. That's, yeah. Resolved an issue that caused the in-game calendar to be off by 1 day. That's, yeah, that would be kind of bad. You plan something, then, oh, it's the wrong day altogether. But Miracle Worker training manuals now have their own category on the exchange, which is very helpful when you're trying to go for those training manuals. Beyond the Nexus can now be found after Temporal Ambassador in the episode journal, which is in the Klingon War, and I don't remember what it is for the Klingons or Romulans, but you'll be able to find it. It's right after Temporal Ambassador, as it says.
I am looking that up right now.
Cool.
I do believe for... Good, keep going.
Okay. Next
There's
up is
Neela.
systems. Hey, Neela. Alright, next up, resolved an issue that could occasionally cause the costume unlocks for the Hokun science vessel in the Nakam scout ship to not properly unlock. Resolved an issue that the Tenketi set rewards from Melting Pot could not be upgraded to Mark 12 for free if earned at a lower level. Ooh, that hurts. The Tenketi Globy armor description now includes an image and reference to the costume unlock. And finally, the known issues. Some cutscenes may be missing objects. The prefix none and LSS are missing for the Lucari ships. In Draenor Beach Assault, ground mortars and shields despawn after 3 minutes in Phase 2. And finally, some Federation ships cannot use the new Galaxy 2638 interior.
Me noticed a typo.
Okay.
Ooh, what? Did I miss something?
A very big typo on their part. We're not in the
Oh.
year 2638.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be 2368.
Okay. Yes. Alright, so for Romulans, you're gonna need to look in the In Shadows arc to find Beyond the Nexus. And for KDF, it's under the Vigilance.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
There you go. Now, it's interesting because I thought that might have been a mistake because it talks about the Alliance. It talks about being in 2410. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was meant
Temple
to
Prime
be there or
Directive.
not.
Temple Prime Directive. I'm sorry, we're going to have to ask you to exit the
Can I
premises.
speak about that? Okay. I heard that, folks. It's been retconned by Department of Temporal
Investigations.
calls it. Investigations. Thank you. Moving on.
But anyways, yeah. Not really a lot to these patch notes, but all the same, we'll have them in the notes for you guys to check out. But for PC players, Hearts and Minds returns for Friday the 13th.
Yep.
Yes.
We have Hearts in Mind, because Friday was the 13th, and we basically every Friday the 13th we will be getting Hearts in Mind rerun going through, where you can get a Darth, if I can remember how to pronounce the name. Okay, someone will read the name. I cannot pronounce it.
What's your name?
The Darth name.
Oh, I usually just say unknown because some people
The
apparently
dog
haven't
name.
played it, so...
Is it that?
Yeah.
I also noticed
Doesn't say. Hold on.
another thing with the blog. It mentions the Ada Eridani sector block. Guess what we've not had for years?
Not years.
Not that I would ever pick it cryptic a little. Okay, maybe a little bit. Pick it somewhere.
Well, the
No.
sector is still there. It's
Yeah.
just not its own instance anymore.
That, and it hasn't been years though, so.
Anyway.
Yeah, from 6 p.m. Pacific, the 12th to 6 a.m. Sunday the 15th. We will be able to play this. Get the DOF, which is a nice rare quality DOF for any assignments that you need. And he has a nice passive if you have him as an active. I'm drawing a blank on what the active is.
Reduces recharge time for psionic traits.
Yep. Thank you, Artie.
You're welcome.
Because basically, if you are a Vulcan, Betazoid, and 2 other races, and you are able to do a build where you focus on psionic abilities, which you can do that. It's quite fun. Yeah, that's an amazing thing to help just keep popping out your abilities.
But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a fun and indeed kind of creepy episode, but
It's a whole lot better when
not
you
graphic,
have...
not graphic creepy.
Yeah. I do say it works a whole lot better when you have your graphic settings all the way up because it's actually dark instead of just a room light and you're just like, oh, yeah, this is not creepy at all.
it's also worse when the lights are out in your room.
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. I've always loved the little voice that they have for the guy that you're going to meet and all that. It's great. It's like chills down your spine every time you hear him talk, kind of thing.
But anyways,
Yes, definitely.
definitely check out that episode. It is a very nice thing to play while it is around. Get that good off. But speaking of episodes, we're coming up on the featured episode, the new one for the console players, which is the Beyond the Nexus. This is actually the RP blog, but basically in a nutshell, this was the first episode that we got to see Geordi in game. So, hey, but I don't really want to say too much about the blog for the console players out there that might want to read it. Don't want to spoil anything for you guys. But, yeah, any comments from the panel?
As an RPer, I do like the little blog it has there. It's of course, it always gives you a little bit more of a mindset into some of the NPCs that you may see in the background of certain missions and so on. But as the mission itself, it's a must play because it shows you the like the new interior and stuff like that. But it's just with the story itself, it kind of grabs you and leaves you still in kind of wonder of like, where is this going? What's going on here? Kind of thing.
Definitely a must play. I really enjoyed it, and I think our console captains will as well. I know they've been asking for it, so.
Yep. But, anyways, we will have the blog up for you guys. Like I said, we don't want to say too much because we don't want to spoil it for anybody that might want to read it, but definitely encourage you folks to read it. It is a good little blog, and as Artie was saying, definitely gives some insight into the minds of people out there. But moving right along, we have the all platforms extended maintenance.
Yes, so on Tuesday, October 17th, all Cryptic games will undergo extended maintenance starting 5 a.m. Pacific Time, which is scheduled to end at 12 p.m. Pacific Time. When is this for you? Depends on your time zone. But during this time, Star Trek Online will be unavailable on all platforms. So this means PC, Xbox One, and PS4. There are no patch notes for this maintenance, but any relevant updates will be posted to the thread that I am reading, which we will provide a link for you in our notes. So pretty simple with this one. Comments, thoughts?
I'm excited because I was looking down the comments a little bit, and apparently they are bringing the Foundry back online after this, supposedly. So I'm happy. I got things to do.
Yeah.
And I need to get with you after the show, actually.
Yep.
But, anyways, like I say, we will keep this in the notes for you guys. We will provide the link for you all so you can be aware of what's going on. Ambassador Kale does give, I believe that is a link we can click on. Yep. But it's a link you can actually click on, which is a time converter and everything, so you can see when that is for you. But any new updates, we will try to tweet that out to you guys through the week and everything. But
yes.
Anyways, moving right along, we have the Melting Pot Week 2 rewards.
Ah, yes. Melting Pot. Alright. Last time, our special reward was the preeminent warp core. I think it was only a warp core, right? Not a singularity core as well? Or was it both? I can't remember.
I think you had the choice between...
You could get either or, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that was there. Alright. But this coming up, we're going to be able to get the preeminent hyper impulse engines. Your normal, really cool engines to go along with that whole... the new set. Along with this, as usual, you get the featured episode weekly reward box, which can give you either an enhanced universal tech upgrade, which you can upgrade any number of items for a substantial number of tech points, or get a captain specialization point box, which obviously will give you a point for one of those new skill trees that you have, such as Miracle Worker. Besides that, now having two of the set, you'll be able to get the plus kinetic damage resistant rating in the whole set now. So, yeah, that's pretty simple.
Yep. And I think I actually have in my inventory, let me pull it up, I can give you the exact numbers for the set bonuses, I think. Yep, so it is a 30 kinetic damage resist for the 2 set. Then, yeah, you can see actually all these set bonuses there. So, pretty decent, I think. But, yeah, that's, we'll have this in the notes for you guys so you can check that out. But, that's pretty much all we had as far as the way of articles this week. There wasn't really too much there, as far as eventful stuff, at least that we could see. But, finally moving on to our budget build of the evening. This is one that was actually requested a while back by a good friend of ours, who is rather nutty, probably the screwball in chat. But, well, one of the
What's the
screwballs
in chat screen name?
That's, yeah, that's Steve. Yeah, figured. But, anyway, we're doing an APU T5U cruiser. This is a bit of a variation on our usual bare bones builds. This time, we're doing a maximum allowable budget for a free-to-play player. This is assuming, of course, that they have not purchased the energy credit cap increase. In this case, they have a maximum EC budget of $15 million to work with. Everything else must be free or as cheap as absolutely possible. Now, the APU cruiser, it comes from the Infinity Lockbox now. It is one of the secondary ships you can purchase. It will require a token in order to level up. The logic behind doing it as a T5U is that you've already applied the token to it. But, the build was requested to be Tetrion based, so that's what we've done here. As far as the forward weapons go, we have 2 of the resonating Tetrion beam arrays. These have a DMG and a chance proc. Come from the New Link mission, which is the one where you beat the living daylights out of the Changeling. And then, these fleet beams are actually supposed to be the new diffusive Tetrions. Since the diffusives aren't actually in the builder yet, I kind of improvised a little bit and just threw something in the notes. But the diffusive Tetrions, I'll pull up so you can see the actual proc from them. The proc is plus 10% shield resistance for 10 seconds to yourself and minus 10% shield resistance to the enemy. So, another very nice shield debuff from Tetrion weapons. Can be very nice, especially in a high survivability or tank build. But we were able to pick up 3 of those for about 400k EC apiece, so about 1.2 million. Then we had also 2 more of the resonating Tetrions in the back, as far as weapons, and then finally our anti-chronoton omni-beam from the Butterfly mission. For the shields, engines, deflector, warp core, that sort of thing, since we did want to keep it as cheap as we can, we went with the Soul Defense set to give a bit of survival to the ship. The Soul Defense set is probably my favorite set at the moment on the budget end, as far as tanking and just in general goes. The things that make the Soul Defense set so powerful are the 2 set and the 3 set bonus that it gives. The 2 set bonus, just by having 2 of the items equipped on the ship, will give you the free equivalent of a neutronium armor without actually having to equip and occupy a console space. Then the other strength to the set is the 3-piece bonus, which is the healing effect that it gives. It is an AoE heal, which blasts out a lot of healing to yourself and to allies within range, which is one of the good reasons why you would want to use the set. Then, as far as the warp core goes, it is the Temporal Phase Overcharged Warp Core. This is the one from the Butterfly mission. And since the Soul Defense set didn't have a warp core, we had to grab one. But the good thing about having the Temporal Phase Core this time is we can actually call into effect the set bonuses with the Anti-Chronoton Beam, and also the Temporal Disentanglement Suite that we'll take a look at in just a moment. Now, if anybody out there was here for the Delta Recruitment event, you're familiar with a little device known as the Temporal Negotiator. Now, the Temporal Negotiator basically cut the duration, or cut the cooldowns of bridge officers in half for the duration of the device. This essentially gives you the same thing in the form of a warp core capacitor, and is probably the best warp core, at least in my opinion at the moment, at the budget end as far as cooldown reduction and stuff goes. But for devices, we usually think of them as personal preference, but the device I like to recommend is the Subspace Field Modulator, which is a nice little defensive device you pick up from the skirmish mission. Gives a bit of damage resistance whenever it's used. It does, however, debuff you for a negative 400 proton damage resist rating. Now, not too many enemies use proton damage resist, or damage, but it is worth noting, however. And as Neela is saying, also, as far as another device you may want to pick up is the Deuterium Surplus. Other devices you might consider would be the Energy Amplifier batteries, or perhaps Armor Catalyst, as some of the other hosts are saying in chat. But point being, you've got a lot of options with devices, so don't be afraid to experiment a little bit, I guess I could say. For engineering consoles on the T5U version of the ship, you get a 5th engineering console. And as far as engineering consoles go, we have the assimilated module from the Borg Rep. This gives some crit chance and some crit severity, and is basically a tachyokinetic converter minus the turn rate effect. We have the 0-point conduit for some free critical hit chance. We have the Trillium Deplating, which is basically an armor console and a field generator for shields slapped into one thing. You get some increased damage resist rating and shield capacity. Then for the Martok console, it's basically a shield capacitor and an RCS console slammed into one thing. And it will give a little bit of turn rate to the ship. Now, we have a basic EPS flow regulator on the build. This is a white on the builder itself. This is actually supposed to be the console from the previous featured episode and everything, which I'll go ahead and just pull that up in game so I can show you guys the bonus. Let me go down to it here.
We recently received a distress signal from the USS.
This is the Reinforced Armaments console from the Beyond the Nexus mission. This gives a 53.3% power transfer rate, some hull cap, and the hull restoration. So basically a free, very rare quality EPS console. So very potent and everything. The reason we used the basic EPS on the builder is because they don't yet have this on the STO Academy page that we're using for this. But I did make sure to include information like that in the notes, so you can go back and see what is which. Then we finally have, for our science consoles, the Temporal Disentanglement Suite. This is a very good console and everything that gives a bit of shields and everything. Actually, I should have one in my inventory here, and we're going to discuss the set bonuses really quickly. It gives 4 aux power, 20% maximum shield capacity, a bit of critical chance and critical severity based on aux power, and 3% shield resistance. Now, the set bonuses are one of the reasons why we're going to call in the full Tetryon effect here, or the full 3-piece I should say, is for having 2 of the items on the ship, you get a 13.3% Tetryon damage boost. Then you also get the Anti-Chronoton infused Tetryon discharge, which is the 3-set bonus, and it basically smacks 10 enemies that are within a 10-kilometer sphere for a good bit of Tetryon damage. basically another Tetrion. What's the name of it in space? I'm having a brain for it. But
Are you meaning the refracting Tetrion
Thank you.
cascade?
yeah, it's basically that in the form of a 3-piece bonus, is the best comparison I can use.
Yes.
Then for our final science console, we actually have the sticky web console, and this is something that we actually purchased from the exchange. This is the... Yeah, this is basically the universal console equivalent and can be compared to the polymorphic probe array, except this is for Tetrion. This is the thing that poofs up the big giant Tholian web while in space, and would pair very well with the new low-buy Tetrion console once that is able to be picked up. For our tactical consoles, we have 3 of the Tetrion pulse generators from the Midnight mission. We are able to get a source of these that is very easy to farm. But that's pretty much what we've got for the equipment on the ship and everything. We're calling into play a lot of set bonuses, calling into play some of the different procs. So you're going to have the standard Tetrion shield damage, as well as the shield resistance drain as well. For skills, pretty basic, what I usually recommend to folks. As far as a middle-of-the-road type of build, we've got 2 points into hull and shield capacity each, 1 point into shield and hull restoration. We've maxed out energy weapon training. We've picked up improved EPS flow, 1 point into impulse expertise, picked up control and drain expertise each. We've maxed out targeting expertise to offset the accuracy penalties to firing modes such as FAW. Then we have our defensive maneuvering, makes you a bit harder to hit. We've also maxed out all 3 of the armoring traits, or the hull plating traits. Skills, trait things. I can't word tonight, apparently. But then we've maxed out the shield hardness, which reduces damage to your shields. Then we've maxed out weapon amplification and specialization for some free crit chance and severity. Then we have a point into defensive and offensive subsystem tuning for free power. We put 2 points into exotic particle gens. We've also maxed out our long-range targeting sensors. This reduces the drop-off of our weapons at range. Then, in this case, I'm actually going to recommend the shield penetration, since you're working with a lot of shield debuffs anyway with Tetrion. Otherwise, I would normally say that between the hull pin or the shield pin, it is actually personal preference. Normally, Kirby prefers to go with the hull pin, whereas I'm typically more of a shield pin. You can make arguments for either one. In this case, I just personally felt it would be more effective for the shield penetration, since you've got a lot of shield debuffs already. Then finally we have our last 2 points, 1 in warp core potential, and 1 in warp core efficiency for some additional free power. For specializations, I went with the intelligence primary and pilot secondary. That gives a nice offensive boost to the ship, as well as giving some potential defensive value from pilot as well. Go ahead and pull up our traits. As far as the traits go, pretty much everything in here you can get for free. We have the accurate to further offset the accuracy penalty. We have beam barrage. I always assume that when we're doing the budget builds that whoever's requesting them, or anybody that might see it, is leveled at least 1 R&D crafting school, and in this case we decided to go with beams. Then we have beam training for additional free beam damage. We have elusive for free defensive value. Fleet coordinator for free damage based on party size. We have the grace under fire trait here. If you are not an engineer, then simply replace it with your career-specific trait. We went with the grace under fire because the builder defaults to engineers, and we usually don't change it unless by request. As for the nanite repair matrix, this comes from the Midnight mission and triggers a hull heal when you drop below 50% hull. It can occur once every 90 seconds. Then we have the point blank shot, which is increased damage based on how close you are to the target, up to a maximum. This is from the House Peg mission. Then we have Operative for a bit of free crit chance and severity. For starship traits, we have the Best Defense. This is another free starship trait from the House Peg mission. This is, it gives your attack patterns a hull healing buff along with normal effects. Predictive algorithms to further offset that fall penalty even more. This comes from the Intelligence spec. Then we have the Pedal to the Metal, which is from the Pilot specialization and gives us increased damage while we are at full throttle. For Space Reputation, I did go with Advanced Engines because the APU can be a bit hard to turn without some type of turn benefits going to the ship, or turn buffs I should say. And we have Advanced Targeting Systems for free severity, the Aux Power Offense for increased damage based on your Aux Power. Then we have Precision for some critical hit chance in space as well. Then we have for our active reps the Anti-Time Entanglement Singularity, very nice AoE attack that you can do to enemies. Biomolecular Shield Generator, which is a AoE defensive power, and this is the green ball you see people using in space. Then we actually called into effect the Refracting Tetryon Cascade. Especially since we're using Tetryon damage anyway, this is going to be boosted even more than it normally would be. And you're going to be able to crank out quite a bit of damage from just this one power. Finally, we have the Quantum Singularity Manipulation. This increases our science stats by 100 for the time it is active, and gives a temporary cloaking effect. Now, the combination that we like to use, and this will actually get you more damage, is to pop your Quantum Singularity Manipulation first, follow up with any other exotic buffs that you have, and then fire off your Anti-Time Entanglement Singularity, and you will get a lot more bang for your buck. But, anyways, that's what we have as far as traits and that sort of thing goes. We're going to take a look at the Bridge Officer powers, and I know one thing Kirby's going to say right away, but I'll explain why I did it in a minute. For the ship itself, you get an Ensign Universal, a Lieutenant Tactical, a Commander Engineering, Lieutenant Commander Engineering, and Lieutenant Science. For the Ensign Universal seat, we made it a Tactical and went with a Beamfire at will 1. This allows us to do damage to enemies in range with our beams, multiple enemies. Then we have our TAC Team, because it purges certain debuffs as well as redirects our shields. And we also have our attack pattern beta to debuff the enemy. For our Commander Engineering seat, we have our Engineering Team 1. We also have our Reverse Shield Polarity 1 to recharge our shields. And a pinch, Emergency to Weapons 3 for some free weapon power and a damage increase. And we also have one copy of the Aux to Bat 3 in this case. And this is probably what I figured Kirby was going to catch on, is we have an Aux to Bat and the Aux Power offensive trait, which gives us damage based on Aux Power.
Yes, sir.
Now, the reasoning behind that is, although yes, we are using an Aux to Bat and everything, out of the free traits, in my opinion, it was one of the better ones to go with, because although it's not going to give great numbers in an Aux to Bat build, it is going to give something at the very least. And extra damage is going to help. At least that's the theory behind it. And if nothing else, it fills the slot, so... you know.
This is true.
Then for our Lieutenant Commander Engineering, to kind of diversify the powers a little bit, we did go with a Structural Integrity Collapse 1. This is a nice little smack in the face to the enemy from an engineering type of power. We have an Emergency Power to Weapons 2 to help keep our emergency power going a lot longer. Then we also have finally a Warp Bubble 2. The builder actually says it's Warp Bubble 3, but in actuality this is a Warp Bubble 2. Now Warp Bubble is an AoE debuff to the enemy that debuffs their turn rate and also debuffs their damage. And as long as the enemies are within 4 kilometers, there is no hard upper limit to the amount of enemies you can debuff with that. So, in theory, if you could get 500 enemies within a 4-kilometer radius through some super powerful grav well, then you could debuff every single one of them and essentially cut their damage in half for the duration of that power. Finally, for the Lieutenant Science, we have a Science Team 1 to recharge shields a bit, as well as purges certain debuffs such as pesky subnucleonic effects. Then we have finally our Hazard Emitters 2, which is a heal over time effect, and also purges certain hazard debuffs such as the Borg Plasma Fire.
Yes, now I am going to cut in here. So, because you do have that that Nukara trait for the space, the auxiliary power configuration, I would actually, I'd leave the Aux to bat. That's, you can work with it. I would change the emergency power to weapons 2 to an emergency power to Aux. Now here's why. Here's the routine that you would go in. Number 1, that Aux to bat with the duty officers is going to recharge every ability that you've got on cooldown down to its lowest. So you're going to be able to keep that emergency power to weapons 3 going. So I'm not worried about that. If you put an emergency power to Aux in there, then you hit your Aux to bat, draining your Aux power, and then you hit your emergency power to Aux, and it puts the auxiliary power right back up. So it kind of negates or limits the time when your Aux power is extremely low or gone by doing that. So that's what I would do.
That is indeed something that I'm very glad she said that, because that's kind of what I was going for, but I couldn't quite find the words to explain it. Because, you know, brain fart, which is not really uncommon for me. But
That's okay.
speaking of duty officers, this isn't something we normally cover in the budget builds, because we don't really like to assume what duty officers people may have. But because they are a key part to the build in this case, we did source out 3 of the rare quality technicians. These are the ones that reduce recharge time for all bridge officer powers when you use an aux to battery ability. These are a key part of the build. We were able to pick these up for pretty cheap, actually. I think ended up being about... What did it end up being for these guys? I think maybe 3 mil total for 3 of them. So not too terribly expensive.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
And apparently I've been fired by the boss man for my brain farting, which kind of expected. But
Yay.
I did include everything in the notes. We can see where to get everything. Total cost was around 12 million EC, so we did spend a good chunk of our 15 million. That leaves us with about 3 million left. As far as total dilithium investment, you're looking at 30,000 dilithium and a build time of about 4 days, assuming you're only refining on 1 tune a day. So one of the quicker builds that we've had, but you've got quite a bit of potential with the APU cruiser in this aspect. But anyways, that's what we have for our budget build for this week. If you've got a budget build you want to see us do, let us know, and we'll see if we can't help you out. As far as the bugs corner, there is a couple that I did want to touch base on. One of them in particular involves the Miracle Worker powers, and this is the narrow sensor bands power specifically. Now, the narrow sensor bands, basically what I've been noticing, and I want people out there that have the Zenkethi ships or have access to them to test the power out. Let me know if you're seeing what I'm seeing. Basically, what I'm seeing is when I pop the power, the bonus will show up for a split second and then it disappears. So the power is essentially giving me nothing, and I'm not able to benefit from it at all. Now, I've made some reports already on this, but the more people that report it, the better. That way, maybe if you're able to get a video clip or something, they may see something in yours that I didn't quite catch in mine. Or maybe there's a combination of powers I'm activating that you're not, or something along those lines. That is one of the big ones. Also, some other concerns with the... which one was it you said? The provisions earlier today, Kirby?
No, the, oh yeah, the provision. The colony provisions. So, what is that when a player member donates the provisions into the coffers, it doesn't, while it gives them fleet credits into their own, they can spend fleet credits, it doesn't mark it on the overall holding contribution on the fleet. The fleet leaders will often check. You get promoted based on, so it's not registering those donations, those credits that you've earned in that overall holding contribution. If that makes any kind of sense.
Essentially, in a nutshell, what she's saying is you donate it, you get the fleet credits, but the donation amount doesn't actually show on the leaderboard itself, is what she's saying. And I am pretty sure that's a bug and everything, but if you guys are seeing that out there, let them know so they can fix that. To me, that would seem kind of like a waste to not let that count towards the leaderboard and everything, but at the very least, it is something that needs some clarification. But
yes, and that was noticed by Ed's evil twin.
Yep.
And passed on to me. So,
but especially guys, like I say, with the narrow sensor bands and really serious stuff like that, please let them know, because they want to get this stuff fixed. They don't like seeing broken mechanics any more than you or I do, and they want to make sure everything works good. But as far as to how to report a bug, they actually have forums on the ARC website itself. There is one for the Xbox, one for the PlayStation, and one for the PC. We all have our separate forums finally. Go on to the forum for your appropriate platform. Just tell them, hey, this is what's happening. This is how I'm able to trigger the bug. Give them screenshots, video, whatever you've got. Or if you know my @tag in game, or are able to get a hold of one of the other hosts of the show, feel free, let us know. We'll see to it that the devs get the report, and we'll see about getting some of this stuff fixed. Because that is one of the things I did sign up for, as much as I love to give these guys a hard time for giving me paperwork. And boy, do they love to give me paperwork.
Guess what?
Chris, we broke it.
Exhibit A. But
yes.
Anyways, that is some of the major bugs I did want to discuss and everything this week. Like I say, please, as far as the narrow sensor bands goes, let them know, because that is one of the major miracle worker powers that is currently not doing anything. But anyways, we have our Teacher's Corner for this week. What have you got for us this week, Teacher?
So this week I did emergency weapon cycle. This is a trait if you're looking to do DPS. You have probably heard of this trait, and I do get the question, well, what's so great about it? Why should I spend 3,000 Zen? So I tell you why you should spend 3,000 Zen to get that trait. If you're looking to do DPS, it is a very important trait. It will help you out a good deal. And so I explain why, what's so good about it, and why you should spend 3,000 Zen to get it. So you're welcome, Cryptic. But yeah, thoughts, comments?
Definitely a trait that glad you put the information out there, because it is one that I admit I've got that question myself a few times. And giving people the lowdown and everything will hopefully help everybody out.
Yeah.
You sound tired.
Like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, on my end, I've been using it for quite a bit since I got in the Arbiter, and I'm just like, it works. And when people go, "Oh, why does it work?" I'm like, I don't know. That's not the question you can ask me. I'm an RP guy. I don't do numbers. It just works. That's all I can do.
Yes. I'll be honest, I don't do numbers. I do and how it works, what it speeds up, and why that's a good thing. So, and that's what I explain. So, there you go.
But another very informative Teacher's Corner in the books. We will have a link to that video. Highly encourage you guys to check that out if you're wanting to look into numbers, or maybe you're just wanting to improve your traits and wondering what's the big deal about this one. But anyways, coming up on our final segment of the evening, we have the RP Corner with Artie. What have you got for us, dude?
Alright, so I got a request saw that I did a how-to carrier ship. In that video a couple episodes back, I decided to go make a couple of players into a suitable crew for running a carrier with fighter squadron. Well, going further with that, he was like, well, what about all the other naval ships? And I was like, yeah, I'll do a submarine. And so I now have how to RP a proper stealth ship. Well, first off, I would like to explain that by proper stealth ship, I mean ships that can remain hidden for missions and so on, and remain undetectable for those missions. Specifically, even though cloaking devices are, a proper stealth tech, from what we've seen in like Star Trek and all that, they're stealthy up to a point. And what I mean is that, as you've seen sometimes with the Klingons and definitely the Romulans, they'll use the cloaking device to get right up on the enemy, drop everything, and not even re-cloak or anything. They'll just keep on attacking from there on out because, that's how it works, I guess. But if we're thinking about warfare, it's quite different than just coming in, a decloak, and drop all your bombs at the same time, as you may have seen multiple times in STO. The biggest thing that came up about this was back in the original series, the episode Balance of Terror. You saw a good point of the Enterprise fighting a Romulan Bird-of-Prey in basic, the old style, I throw out explosive mines out here, see if I can find you. If I don't, then I don't find you. If I do, then I'm going to see a little bit of spark and I'll continue firing at that spot. In modern times, that's how you went to go find submarines. You depth charges, blow them up, and hope for the best at that point. Obviously you got, sensors to better now and whatnot, and for Star Trek it's slightly different again. For instance, for the example I'm giving here, let's say that the group of these players are wanting to RP on a modified Romulan Bird-of-Prey. All right, it could fire torpedoes when cloaked, as well as other projectiles, as you may have seen in game. Obviously, beam weapons and cannon weapons are offline since there's a cloaking device in place, and same with shields. Obviously, we're not dealing with a scimitar or something like that that has every amenity known to space active due to whatever. We're talking about little bitty, I'm a stealth ship. I'm not in the neighborhood. But moving on from that, keeping with the, just shooting things while cloaked, there's the idea of when you're playing around as a submarine, is what I'm dubbing it now. You obviously got to stay undetected while you're fighting. And I know this is role play. It's not, it's not like you're using in-game mechanics, but it's a little bit more different depending on how you see the story when you're more or less. And it gets very finicky sometimes. When I mean finicky, I mean that when stealth and you're going against, say, a heavier ship, all right, it may have better sensor technology, whatever, it may see you. Maybe you have it better on maneuverability and all that, and since you're still cloaked, more or less, it may not be able to, so you still have the submarine advantage. Oh well, that works. Moving on to the next bullet point. From what I figured out from this little idea of I've come up with 3 crew positions to fill out if you're going to actually have this work out. A ship commanding officer, obviously. So, and this captain has the know that stealth ships, depending on the size and the shape and whatnot, they don't just go in guns blazing and hope for the best. They go in tactfully. They look at their enemy. They see the weak points, and then they strike those weak points instead of just crashing straight in like you may see in a PvP match like that. You got the communications or sensors officer. Either one works. Even though it's in space, back in modern times, you still have sonar, and most people listen to and waiting, and here you detect the little subtleties in the water and be like, yep, there's a guy right there. I got him, all because I can hear him. Well, even though this is space, it doesn't exactly work that way. For RP sense, maybe you can have some special technology that, it doesn't work like sonar, but you get some special sensor technology that helps out or something. That's where things get a little wobbly, and you can roleplay how. And lastly, you got the tactical officer. Now this one's a little bit obvious, I know. Of course, you're going to have someone to fire your torpedo. But the tactical officers are a little bit more stealth ships. They don't just press the button because the captain said fire. They are the second pair of eyes for the captain when looking at a situation, especially when they're definitely. And I don't mean outclassed, like you're a little bitty tier 6, and that's like a smaller ship compared to a slightly larger ship or something like that. Besides that, as my personal spin on this to make this idea a little bit more interesting, as I've seen once before with another friend of mine's roleplay group, he decided to go, I have this stealth ship, it fires only when cloaked and whatnot like that, but it's notorious. It has the notorious IFF, and it's like as soon as it appears on sensors, everyone flips out because it's like, oh, it's those guys. We're not messing with these guys, or we're gonna die, kind of thing. So it's like every year. It's just everyone has to flip out, and it's like you're just ready to gun for it, even though you're, obviously a stealth ship. It's a very interesting thing. I can answer questions about that later on, but that's more or less everything. It was a bit of a ramble, I know.
No more worse than me when I'm doing the budget builds, anyway.
But yeah. Besides that, anyone out in the audience or in Twitch land or whatever, if you have something you want me to ramble about for RP wise or anything like that, let me know. I will be happy to do something like that.
Yep. It does seem pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, I had kind of wondered some of the different interactions between the ships, how that works in a roleplay environment. So, yeah, very informative, dude.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Anyways, folks, that's pretty much what we've got for this week as far as our our show and everything, a good shout out to our friends over at the Temporal Armada. Be sure to check those guys out with their radio broadcast. Very cool bunch of dudes. Also be sure to check out our other good friends over at the Kurtang Pirate Radio. Very chill bunch of folks as well. Both radio programs are definitely something you guys will probably enjoy. But if you guys have any requests for budget builds, please let us know. Let us know what ship you want. Give us kind of a budgetary idea of what you're at. Let us know, hey, I've got this ship. This is all I've got as far as EC, and I'm wanting to do a tank, or I'm wanting to do a DPS. Whatever it is, we'll hook you up with something at your appropriate budget level. If you're looking for help with your piloting, we do still help people with that. Please submit a little basic video clip of your piloting and everything. We do have the website that you can use. You can also submit us an unlisted video through YouTube and everything, and we will help you out in that department as well. But, yeah. Let's leave everything. But, anyways, folks, we hope you enjoyed the show and everything. But, not too awful much as far as articles and content like we had this last week. But, anyways, thanks for joining us this week, folks. Like I say, without you guys, we wouldn't have a show. But for now, this is the Pilot Review Show. Warping on out of here.
Bye.
See ya.
Night all.